I'm Turk Strongman, current resident at Mind Voltage. I'm going to commence in this video, a narration of the entire book, The Secret of the Emerald Tablet. By Dr. Gottlieb Blatz, translated by D. William Hauck, the Alchemical Press. I purchased this little book, 48 pages, in May 1994, Berkeley, California, at Shambhala Books, as I recall. Shambhala Books. This is published by the Holmes Publishing Group, 1993. It says, no part of this book may be used or reproduced in any manner whatsoever without written permission, with the exception of brief quotations embodied in critical articles and reviews. ISBN number 1-55818-203-9, 1993, printed in the USA by the Alchemical Press, P.O. Box 623, Edmonds, Washington, 98020. You'll notice no part of this book may be used or reproduced in any manner, and it is not yet public domain. It's 1993. I do not intend copyright infringement here. However, I guess that's what it is. I do this for educational purposes only. And by the way, I have attempted to reach the Holmes Publishing Group. I even have their phone number here, 206-771-2701. As far as I recall, well, I was not able to establish contact to get permission. I believe there may no longer be a Holmes Publishing Group. So I was unable to obtain permission. So what do I do, right? This is for educational purposes only, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what the educational purpose is. Recently, I've been seeing, I've been noticing the increasing popularity of the book by William Walker Atkinson and allegedly two of his colleagues. I don't know who they are. I don't believe anybody really does. The book, The Kabbalion, by three initiates. Again, one of whom was William Walker Atkinson, and I suspect maybe that was the only author, that there were no co-authors. Now, that's all explained in an upload that I just recently posted here on this channel. The thumbnail says, The Kabbalion Deception and the Foundations of Hermetic Philosophy. The Kabbalion Deception. In a nutshell, the Kabbalion has nothing to do with Hermetic philosophy. And it does not point back to anything in antiquity or anything having to do with Hermeticism or alchemy or the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, the root or the foundation of the Hermetic art and Hermetic philosophy, the Emerald Tablet. Has nothing to do with those, okay? So now, on the other hand, well, not really on the other hand, but correspondingly, I want to provide what the Hermetic art was really all about, based on translations of the Emerald Tablet. A quite scholarly work, and that's this book now. Now, this is going to be a difficult narration. And by the way, if anybody has a problem with this copyright affair here, state of affairs, which I've named, which I've described now, just say so, and I'll delete the entire narration, including this video. All right? I don't want any trouble over this. I'm trying to help people because the book, The Kabbalion, is increasing in popularity, and people are putting out videos and literature about the wonders and the miracles of the Kabbalion, and putting out information like that just comes straight from the Kabbalion itself. That the Kabbalion, the secrets of the Kabbalion will only reveal themselves to a few chosen ones, and oh God, it goes on and on. And no wonder. The Kabbalion says all this stuff about itself. And it pretends to make all these claims because they come out of antiquity, but they don't. It was all New Thought movement ideology. Anything useful in the book is just New Thought movement ideology of about 100 years ago. And the claims that there's relation to things from antiquity is just hype. It's the book pumping itself up about the book. All right. So this is going to be a difficult narration because this is a bit difficult reading. And it's quite intense and detailed. So I hope you're going to follow along. I'm going to just read as much of it right now as I can. There's 48 pages of dense material. And whether I break it into chapters, whether I break it into 10-minute videos, or just do it all in one shot or two shots, whatever it comes out to be, you're either going to be interested in the whole thing or you're not. Or you're not going to be interested in any of it, really. And so, while I do this, I'm going to drink coffee, drink water, smoke tobacco, smoke some weed, whatever I feel like doing, okay? Table of contents. Translator's preface, foreword by Dr. Gottlieb Latz. Chapter 1, the origin of the Emerald Tablet. Chapter 2, the ancient arcana revealed. Chapter 3, first revision, the Tabula Smaragdina. Chapter 4, the second revision, the Tabula Hermetica. And Chapter 5, the third revision, Tabula de Operatione Solis. Translator's preface. The first decision made by any translator is whether to try to convey the period and writing style of an author or to concentrate on making his meaning clear to modern readers. It soon became obvious due to the length and complexity of this work that I had to choose the latter method. And I'm sure the author would agree with my decision because above all else, Dr. Gottlieb Latz was a man of ideas. His monumental work, De Alchemy, was published in Bonn in 1869. Germany, so it's a German to English translation that we have here. The book is divided, De Alchemy, into 131 chapters, totaling nearly 600 pages, which trace the history of alchemy through 50 centuries. By the way, you'll notice it's just 5 chapters and 48 pages, so this is quite condensed. The present translation is taken from Dr. Latz's research concerning the first 3 Greek revisions of the Emerald Tablet. All 3 of these documents were written in Alexandria before the birth of Christ. Dr. Latz began his exhaustive study of alchemy in hopes of helping his medical patients. He believed that the secret elixir of life was known by the ancient alchemists, but was lost through centuries of conflict and persecution. He tried to reconstruct the formula of the elixir by careful study of alchemical texts, in particular the mysterious Emerald Tablet of Hermes. He was so sure of his success that he used his alchemical compounds on many of his patients, who responded favorably to his treatments. What is more, Dr. Latz, like many alchemists before him, saw in the chemistry of the ARCANUM a profound allegory of the formation and evolution of the universe. Along the way, in his practical search for the universal cure, this 19th century genius rediscovered the shining light of truth in one of the oldest documents of mankind. D. William Houck, 1993. Forward by Dr. Gottlieb Latz. My professors taught me que bene diagnosis, bene medebitur. The better the diagnosis, the better the cure. The perverse falsehood of this saying lies right before our eyes. As doctors, we are very capable in our diagnostic talents, but our ability to cure lags far behind. We know how to recognize malignant tumors, pneumonia, syphilis, meningitis, pox, cholera, arthritis, angina. The list goes on and on. But all we can do is watch as our patients suffer. There are many illnesses in the gray area between curable and incurable that give us the opportunity to get rid of all of our illusions. Medicine used to believe in any disease was curable. That was because thousands of years ago, physicians had knowledge of alchemy. I became convinced of their knowledge when I prescribed out of sheer desperation a sodium compound mentioned in an old alchemy text, and the patient recovered overnight. Continued experimentation led me to believe that a single-minded, absolutely thorough study of alchemy was necessary. Yet my practice required me to travel the countryside by foot and on horse day and night in heat and cold, dust, rain, hail, snow to take care of my sick, pregnant, or wounded patients. How could I take up a difficult and consuming study of the ancient Greek and Latin writings of alchemists? I didn't see how it would be possible, but gradually there awakened in me a greater dimension that allowed me to handle the workload. Totally alone, I searched to find the ARCANUM. First, I looked at hundreds of possibilities mentioned by alchemists, and then I narrowed my study to 1 in 10. If it seemed right, I tried it at the sick beds of my patients, trying to make sense of what dosage to use and how it worked. And finally, with the aid of the Emerald Tablet, I found what I was looking for. I'm the first person who has openly divulged the secrets of the alchemists, because the alchemists themselves tried to conceal their knowledge and did everything they could to entice people down the wrong path. In actual fact, from what they held back, you can follow the thing to its true source. You cannot imagine how many times my exhausted hand fell away from the pages that lie before you now. But I have completed my goal, and you will find herein things that you never would have guessed it to be true, that the medical profession is descended from a secret tradition, that we have much in common with the alchemists, and that only through the study of alchemy will we find the real enlightenment. And Dr. Latz, January 1st, 1869. Chapter 1, The Origin in the Emerald Tablet. The Ancient Science of Alchemy. Alchemy is the study of the ARCANUM and how one can obtain it. The ARCANUM, also known as the elixir, powder, or stone, is the fundamental secret of nature. It is said to have the ability to perfect anything, to change baser metals into gold, to cure disease, to make man whole. The search for the ARCANUM began in the darkest reaches of antiquity. Indian alchemists called it soma in Vedic texts and concealed its properties in a colorful variety of gods. The Chinese sought for it in the form of a pill of immortality. Islamic alchemists referred to it as Rasayana. It was traced back to the first day of creation by Judaic alchemists. Greek philosophers saw it everywhere in nature, hidden in the composition of all matter, but it was the Egyptians who made it into a science. The ideas of alchemy were incorporated into all levels of Egyptian culture. It was their practical science as well as it was their religion. An Egyptian sage known as Hermes Trismegistus is said to have written thousands of books on alchemy and other topics. And although some of his works were kept in secret by priests, many of his manuscripts were lost when the Great World Library at Alexandria was burned by Muslims. Only about 40 of his works have survived, and nevertheless, he is said to have authorized the most important and revered document of alchemy, the Tabula Sumeragnana, or the Emerald Tablet. The Emerald Tablet. The Emerald Tablet is such an important document that the entire history of alchemy can be divided into the period before the tablet and the period after. Alchemical thought centered around the interpretation of the tablet for over 2,000 years. The mysterious communication speaks. Excuse me. Turn the page. Directly to our intuitive understanding, and the reader feels compelled to search for the deeper meaning of its precepts. The alchemists believed that the secrets of their art were buried in its enigmatic lines. The origin of the Emerald Tablet has been traced back as far as biblical Genesis, but most scholars attribute it to Hermes Trismegistus, whose name means thrice great Hermes, or ruler of the three worlds. In all probability, such a person really existed, but it is now impossible to separate the actual person from the legends that identify him with Thoth, the Egyptian god of learning and magic, the inventor of all numbers and science. Albertus Magnus wrote that Alexander the Great discovered the tablet at the tomb of Hermes in Phoenicia. William Kriegsmann, Kriegsmann, has related a legend that Sarah, the wife of Abraham, stumbled upon the tablet in a cave near Hebron and pried it loose from the stiff fingers of a mummified corpse, and other sources allege that Hermes was the son of Adam. Hermes is said to have discovered the tablet in a cave while traveling in Ceylon, yet some say it was discovered in an underground room of the Pyramid of Cheops. Most stories describe the tablet as a green-colored stone with raised bas-relief lettering in the Phoenician alphabet. After extensive and painstaking research into the history of the Emerald Tablet, I discovered that a revised Greek translation of the original text was issued around 300 BC. This translation was performed by 3 Alexandrian alchemists who were attempting to use the mysterious tablet to unify conflicting Jewish, Greek, and Egyptian versions of alchemy. The mixing of cultures in Alexandria caused a shattering clash of dogmas that shook alchemy to its roots. Because these ideas were treated with such secrecy among the ruling classes, the masses, and history took little note of the potentially catastrophic nature of the conflict. Even today, it's hard for us to imagine the shattering impact this crisis of interpretation had on the world. Alchemy was considered a gift direct from God. It was the hidden foundation upon which the world's religions and science were built. The truths of alchemy were a nation's highest secrets and were revealed only to a small group of worthy priests and philosophers. The enlightened tone of the Emerald Tablet so effectively diffused this explosive situation. It must have been divinely inspired. The creation of the tablet actually preserved the esoteric basis of Western civilization. Although the rise of Christianity suppressed the Hermetic doctrines, they were passed on to later generations through a variety of occult groups and disciplines. The title of the Emerald Tablet. The Emerald Tablet calls itself the philosophy of the whole universe, and this is perhaps its most fitting title. However, it was never the nature of alchemists to freely divulge the import of their work, nor to offer the uninitiated such an obvious and tantalizing prize. The original version was probably named Tabula Smaragdina because it was precisely that, a green-colored stone tablet. The first Greek translation and first revision probably went by the same name. The second revision has been called the Tabula Hermetica. More fitting, perhaps, would be the Tabula Egyptica, Egyptiaca, owing to its origins. Most appropriate would be Tabula Chemica, a term which reflects the ancient name of Egypt. Chemi means black soil of the Nile, and the roots of our own science of chemistry. The modern name of alchemy stems from the Arabic al-chemi, meaning the Egyptian science. The third revision came to be known as the Tabula de Operationes Solis. This was a metaphysical interpretation that received wide acceptance and became the driving force behind alchemy through the 16th century. In the present work, the author will refer to the Emerald Tablet generally as the Tabula. The age of the Emerald Tablet. Unfortunately, the original Emerald Tablet has not survived. Some legends trace it back as far as Genesis, while other evidence suggests that it was written around 3000 BC. when the Phoenicians settled on the Syrian coast. The only complete modern text is a very early Latin translation, which exists in 3 versions. These 3 Latin versions correspond to the 3 Greek language revisions of a still older translation of the original Emerald Tablet. All 3 revisions were written in Alexandria, where Greek was the common tongue. Since neither the original translation nor the original document has survived, we have only the 3 revisions with which to work. The history of Alexandria is usually divided into 2 periods. The first, from 332 BC to 30 BC, is the time of the Ptolemies and the Great Library. The city was founded by Alexander the Great as a center of Greek culture in Egypt. It quickly inherited the trade of the ancient Phoenician city of Tyre and even passed Carthage in size. The second period runs from 30 BC to 638 AD. The city became part of the Roman Empire during this time, then a center of Christian learning around 300 AD. It was finally conquered by the Arabs around 640 AD. For our purposes, it is convenient to divide the 2 Alexandrian periods into 3 subdivisions, which correspond to the 3 revisions of the Emerald Tablet. The first revision was written sometime between 300 BC and 270 BC. Because it's based on ideas of the first Alexandrian school, which flourished during that time. The Egyptian and Hellenic cultures were involved in a fruitful merging, and this version reflects their worldview. The first version is centered around the 3 elements of liquid, solid, and air. Liquid, solid, and air. Fire was considered the agent of change between those elements. The second revision was probably written around 270 BC because the Alexandrian empirical school came into power at that time. Among other things, the empiricists accepted fire as a 4th element. And by this time, the city had also become the center of Semitic scholarship. A Greek version of the Old Testament was being translated there. Specific changes were made in the second revision of the tabula that reflected the empirical and the Jewish interpretations. The third revision was probably conceived sometime in the period from 50 BC to 1 AD. This metaphysical evaluation suggested that non-physical processes were involved in the transformation of base metals into gold. It was this interpretation that allowed the rise of swindlers, puffers, and fakes, who called themselves alchemists. But it was also with this third interpretation that the ideas of alchemy finally took a form that could be understood by all men, regardless of culture or religion. It should be mentioned that a 4th interpretation originated in Alexandria around 300 AD. It stemmed from the Neoplatonic school, which attempted to combine Greek philosophy with Arab mysticism and the moral doctrines of Judaism and Christianity. This rendering did not require another revision of the tabula, but it was the first of many dozens of personal, philosophical, and even prophetic interpretations of the original 3 revisions. With the Arab conquest of Egypt in the 7th century, Alexandrian alchemy was passed through Arabian sources, most notably Habir Hayyan. Eventually, knowledge of the art spread to Morocco, and by the 8th century, alchemy had taken a stronghold in Spain. The 3 revisions of the Emerald Tablet found their way to Europe along this same path. That is, the original Greek versions were translated into the Arabic tongue and into Latin, and for the next 1,000 years, alchemy would flourish on the European continent. Well, all right, that is the end of chapter 1, so why don't we cut it off right here? Seems to be a convenient spot. The sun is pouring in the windows here, and I'm getting a little warm, so I'm going to readjust my presence here, and then we'll continue with the second chapter momentarily. Please stand by. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, by the way, now's the chance. Go ahead and do it right now. That way you can, at the same time, activate the notification bell feature and be apprised of our new uploads, such as Chapter 2 of The Secret of the Emerald Tablet. Additionally, just immediately below this media player window that you're looking at, you'll see a thumb up icon. Go ahead and click on that to instantly and easily share the joy of this channel with others. And then just a little further down in the video description area, you will find a donation by PayPal information. Please make note of it. I'm Turk Strawman, current resident at Mind Voltage. Be well.